Making a video game sequel is always tricky, especially for games that do not age at all. Games that are while oldies do not have obsolete mechanics and show little aging whatsoever. One of these games is the original Valkyria Chronicles, that, bar for 2 spin-offs for the PlayStation Portable, did not receive a proper sequel until 2018's Valkyria Chronicles 4. The sequel did what many would consider to be impossible: improve the unprovable. But first things first, roll the intro. While this may be a Valkyria Chronicles 4 review, it would be improper for me not to talk about the original game. After all, I didn't title this video how to make a sequel for an Unaged title. Think of this video as a 2-in-1 review. I'll be explaining what made the original game awesome and how the sequel expand upon it afterwards. If you have the original game fresh in your mind and just want to know if Valkyria Chronicles 4 is worth it, feel free to skip this part using the timestamp below. But if you never played the original game or wish to freshen up your memories, stick around. Promise there will be no spoilers. The original Valkyria Chronicles, published and developed by SEGA, was released in 2008 for the older consoles and PC. The game is set in a fictional conflict where 2 great alliances dug it out in what is baptized as the Second Europa War. All references are purely coincidental. The small nation of Gallia gets Schlieffen by the Germans, the Empire, and is your duty to defend it by commanding a resistance platoon led by Lieutenant Wilkins. The game has a richer plot than what the anime-like graphics may suggest, having well-developed characters, tense moments, plot twists, and even taboo subjects about war such as war crimes and discrimination, topics realistic games avoid like the plague. The plot is narrated sublimely and is well thought out from the beginning to end. The game shines with its sketchbook art style, a play on the fact that the game's plot is based on a war journal. These artistic choices work for 2 main reasons. The first one is that it makes the game less gory and thus more approachable. And secondly, it makes the game unique, being one of the fewest realistic war games with a Japanese stylized animation touch. Even if the story and the art style are strong points, the stronger pillar of the game is none other than the gameplay. The original Valkyria Chronicle is a pioneer of modern tactical games. Think of titles such as XCOM and Mario + Rabbids, having a turn-based first-person shooter hybrid formula that is to this day very well polished. The game mixes up strategy with skills sublimely, giving players many classes and orders to try out. Every soldier deployed is unique. He or she has its own stats, performances, traits, and even weaknesses, not to mention unique design and backstory. Do be careful how you deploy them, however, because permadeath is part of the gameplay. If a soldier falls in the battle and is not saved within 3 turns, that's gonna be the end of the line for them. In short, the original Valkyria Chronicles was a gem, and to this day is a very replayable title. There were some frustrating missions and some downsides, but nothing that would ruin the player's experience in the long term, and time has not made these problems louder, like it happens to most games. The only big challenge for having an Unaged title is that making a sequel is harder than usual. So how do you improve the original VC? Valkyria Chronicles 4 has the answer. Valkyria Chronicles 4 released 10 years later to the original title, making its debut to current-gen consoles, PC and the Nintendo Switch. The game is neither a sequel nor a prequel of the original, but is set during the same war in a different front between the Federation and the Empire. Like the previous title, the enemy stays the same, but this time the Westerners are on the offensive, marching towards the Empire's capital Schwarzgard, in what is top secretly known as Operation Northern Cross. For this second round of fighting, we're not enlisted in the local militia, but rather in the Federation's Army's Squad E, led by Lieutenant Claude Wallace. The scale of the plot increases dramatically in comparison to the first time. Rather than to stick into the small country of Gallia, the entire eastern front is open, and the adventure takes place in multiple locations across the frontier. Without spoiling anything, I can only tell you to expect the unexpectable. As I explained for the original title, the series is rich with developed characters and is unafraid to touch delicate subjects. While the darks and discrimination theme is less prevalent, other war topics such as total mobilization, partisans, and the arms race between factions are present throughout the adventure. But going back to the plot itself, the main plotline is intriguing and more unpredictable than what you may think. There are some anime-type moments, the cartoon-like style is not everyone's cup of tea, but overall, characters take very seriously their place in the narrative and are more complex than what may appear. Overall, I would say that the storyline is on the same quality level as the original title, which is an achievement not easy to gain. The graphics, as you can see from the background video, are an evolution from the original game. The art style is the same, but the game engine was clearly upgraded, making every cutscene and in-game animation much more fluid and detailed. Putting the game side to side makes the original Unaged title, well, a bit aged. In this iteration, the artists were fully able to depict more complex scenarios, more dramatic cutscenes, and a revisionized user interface that looks sharper and feels more polished. Heck, even the text fonts were changed for the better. Deals like this might fly under the radar, but I can assure you, they add up. As I stated for a previous game, graphics and plot are great, but not the sole reason for buying the title. That's on the gameplay. The original mechanics of the game were what made Valkyria Chronicles unique, so how do you improve what looks to be unprovable without changing the formula? I think we need a new blog to explain this great leap forward. Apart from the plot's premise and the upgraded graphics, many of the game's core mechanics and style remain quite linked with the original title. The sense of déjà vu is vivid, and when you first boot up the game, it's even unsettling. The question, am I playing the same game, is going to pop up frequently in your head the first hour of play, and you might even wonder if there are any improvements at all. The Valkyria Chronicles 4 prologue starts almost as the original game did, a mirror version if you will, almost provoking the player to spend full price for its awaited sequel, but taunting only makes the surprise even greater. Rather than introduce every new mechanic straight away, the game takes its time to show every new card it has, and it will be more than glad to bluff that it's empty-handed. By the time you think you saw it all, what the game has to offer, you reached a third of your adventure. This sequel improves on everything that made the original game great, even things that might have not needed improvement. From making side characters more detailed, to adding new scenarios and new tactics, from adding new orders and strategies, to even making the user interface sharper, Valkyria Chronicles 4 feels like a proper generational jump for the series. It's hard to keep on listing the new features added in order not to spoil the experience, but one great improvement is the attention the privates got in the adventure. Apart from the main quest, many side characters have their own interludes, with modest yet completed arcs for what is basically the whole cast. By learning what the characters are afraid of and how they overcome their personal challenges, the skills and weaknesses not only evolve, but make much more sense than the old generic traits like allergic to sand. Another great improvement, and again sorry if I'm a bit vague but I really do not wish to spoil anything, are the battles themselves. Scenarios are more variegated and missions change more dynamically as the game progresses. Developers were much more creative with the mission prose, and there is a real sense of military campaign the original game lacked. Many are the obstacles along the way, and many are the detours that will be taken, but you will not stop at anything, will you? The best way to describe this upgrade is a change of gear. To make a sequel of a game fans adore and do not wish to see rebranded is to make a faithful sequel that improves rather than eradicate the original formula. This is a double-edged sword of course, too lazy and the sequel may appear as a cash grab, too complex and the original fans are not buying it. Valkyria Chronicles 4 gets the sweet point right on the bullseye. As I said in the introduction, making a sequel for an Unaged game is hard, and we've seen many examples where fans were angry at sequels because it's more of the same or it's too different. Far Cry 6 is getting a lot of hate because it's too similar to the older Far Crys, yet there was backlash when Civilization 6 released because they changed the game too much. Both sequels had to appease fans for long-running series, and inevitably they struck the wrong nerve to some, despite being fun titles. Valkyria Chronicles 4 meanwhile was at the right place at the right time, and even if the game is quite similar to its predecessor, fans were eager to play the long-awaited sequel, and the game did nothing but deliver. The three main characteristics of Valkyria 4, gameplay, plot and graphics, are extremely well done, and I would surely suggest everyone to play both the sequel and the original game. It kept me hooked for 50 plus hours and is one of the best games SEGA has ever developed and published. Like the original game, there are some details that needed more care, mainly the AI imbalance, but it would be nitpicking searching for more problems. If you think you might like it, you will like it. Valkyria Chronicles 4 is the perfect sequel for an Unaged title. If you made it this far, you're an amazing person, and I want to thank you 1 gazillion times for watching today's video. If you liked it, leave this video a like and subscribe for more content, and let me know what you would like to see next. Did you play Valkyria Chronicles 4? Did you like it? Let me know down in the comments. But until then, arrivederci.